Hi there, welcome back to the channel. You join me today back at Aston Barclay as I'm doing a little bit of collecting, picking up one or two bits. I've just picked up a Focus which is on its way back to the workshop now with the driver, and I'm also about to collect, well, just collected a Dacia Sandero out the compound and also a Jaguar XF. Now I'm going to cover the Jag in another video because that is not something that I would usually buy, to be honest, because it's not really my sort of profile for retail. I don't usually try and buy big lumpy things like that. But it was pretty decent value, and I think there's probably a shilling in it, and I just thought, you know what, sod it, once in a while I'll just go buy something a little bit different. We're going to cover that in a separate video and talk more about the XF in general. Today, just a quick look at this Dacia I just bought, which I actually think is really cheap for what I paid for it, and I think there's a decent markup in it. But let me show you what I've bought, why I buy the Dacias, and quickly what you need to look out for when buying them. Right, here it is, the old Dacia Sandero 1.2. I do like a Dacia. This is the 1.2 petrol version. They did a 1.5 diesel, they do a 1 litre petrol as well. I generally buy the 1.5 diesels or the 1.2. 1.2 ran up to about 2000 and I think it's about 16, maybe 17. Well, I'll put the exact date here. They did change them to the 1 litre petrol as well, which they also ran they ran them both together at one point, but then the 1 litre sort of took over. I don't usually buy the 1 litres unless they're very low mileage, purely because they're I'm not a big fan of the engine, and I've seen a few issues with them. So I don't mind the old 1.2. It's basically a Renault Clio engine. It's good news, and they are generally quite reliable. This one's done 100,000 miles, still running really well for, all right, I've only driven it out the gate and up the road and back, but it seems all right so far. I said they're not usually difficult things to work on and stuff like that. They're quite basic inside, not too bad. It's very basic. It's only a, I don't think it's a particularly, it's not a spec model, it's not the base model, because the base ones had black bumpers and stuff, no stereo, wind me down windows. This is a middle of the road one, to be honest with you. Even if it's the, I think it's the Laureate one, or Lorette, or whatever you call it, high spec versions are not particularly well spec'd in reality, but it's got licky windows, it's got stereo, it's got airbags, you know, for passenger fronts and stuff like that. It's got the bare minimum you would expect of a car. Bear in mind, this is probably what, 7 grand new, and I've just paid, well, £1,000 for it, plus some fees on top. I'll show you the invoice in a minute. It's pretty clean, to be honest. It's not a bad old thing. Like I said, there is some service history of it. We've got the book there, a few stamps in. We've also got some loose receipts for servicing. It looks like the guy's been buying his own parts and servicing it himself and sort of popping his own things on there. He even put his contact number on there. Well, that's nice of him. And anyway, yeah, so he's got some history on that side of it. Bag of stuff there, that's some other service docs for some other cars. Have the receipt here. We've given for this car, calling me account number up, it is £1,232 out the door. So it's £1,000 plus 232 quid of fees, made up of about 200 quid would be the fee for the actual auction fee, buyer's fee, and then about 40 quid indemnity, not indemnity, sorry, 40 quid the surety fee. It can vary between 12 quid and 40 quid depending on the year. This one just sneaks in under 10 years, so I think we have to pay an surety fee at the upper end. But basically you get a check over of the vehicle and a report of it, and if you had anything that was majorly wrong with it, so we said it was driving okay and you start it up and it was, you know, blow up or something, then obviously you're covered under the auction terms and conditions. Anyway, enough about that. This one does need one or two little bits, mainly just a little bit of tidying up on the paint. I'm not going to go too mad on it. There is little superficial sort of marks down here, little tiny dents. For the sake of a 100,000 mile Dacia, which is probably only a 2895 car, we're not really going to be looking to tackle them so much. Just a good buff up and clean up will probably be enough, but there is a couple of advisories on it at the last MOT. Just a bit under the bonnet, there's a little bit of a strut top that's got a little spot of rust on it, which is easily fixable. And as you can see, there's a little bit of rust as well, which had been advised on the previous MOT. Now it's quite solid under there, but it's just starting to go on this seam line here, and because it's white, standing out like a sore thumb. So really, we want to get that silk repainted. It's not, it's not holed or anything, it's not corroded through, but obviously if it's left, it will cause an issue. Now paint man will be the man for that. We'll just get that sort of chipped off. If we need to plate it, we'll plate it, put a piece in nice and flush, and obviously repaint it. You'll never know it's been there. Obviously it will be no problems then for the MOT. We can get those advisories taken. We can get those advisories taken off when we redo it. Same under the bonnet. We just need to tidy it up. It just wants a sill repair, which is here and there. It's white. It's dead easy to paint. It's not pearlescent as well, which is good. That's paint to colour match. I don't think it's a particularly expensive car for what, 1,200 quid for a 14 plate Dacia. I think that's really cheap motoring. So we've got a sill to repair and a little bit under the bonnet just to tidy up. Quickly show you and start it. Done 101,000 miles. There is a little bit of wear to the steering wheel, which is really common on these. You seem to suffer with steering wheel wear. Also as well, just mentioned about that sill. The sills are common, particularly on the driver's side, for getting sort of scabbing and sort of a little bit of corrosion on them. I've not seen too many of holes in, although I probably will be the odd one that eventually will go through. They are obviously built to a price, these cars. They are quite thin, the metal they use. So you have to be careful of that. Make sure, obviously, looking at sills, get your hand underneath there, make sure it's nice and strong. The near side one's actually in really good order. Just that driver's side we need to address, which is easy peasy to sort out. Is the stereo working? Oh, hang on, this is looking. Hang on, press the wrong button. There we go. It's a pretty basic system. Yeah, it's working. I'm tuning into something. It's got Bluetooth as well, which is good. Got to mention that. And we've also got USB ports. So you've got everything you need really in a car, you know, for what it is and the price point. There you go. Got BBC Wales on. We've got heaters. Are they all working? Yeah, you got to check them because they're Renault based and they can go wrong. Another one to check on these briefly, wipers. These wipers are always going wrong on these, particularly linkages. Also the motors can pack up. They are sort of based on a Renault Clio setup, but not quite the same. So they are quite unique, the motors to them, and they're quite expensive. So if you always check those, because I think the last one I bought for one of these was about 150 quid, the motor, brand new. They are a really expensive bit of kit. Here's an example of how basic these are. I used to adjust these on the MOT. They've actually got, unlike most cars would have electronic sort of adjuster for the headlight aim. This one's actually manual. You have to turn it yourself, which is quite it's quite cute, really. You haven't seen that like since an old Wolseley or something. Stay in the back quickly. Nice, basic inside. Wind me down windows. Seats are all right. Just want a valet. Has got a 3-point belt in the back as well, in the middle, which is always good. We have got 2 keys, which is good. It has got central locking, which I think is working. Let's double check. Yep, central lock is working. Basic trims on it. No alloys to worry about. Boots, these are quite common for sticking. Always check the boots, particularly these locks. Locks get filled with grime and water and always going to get a bit stiff, and so check your key by popping it in and obviously turning it, make sure it's all right, because that's really the only sort of access you've got to the boot. By the looks of this one, looks like actually it's had a new motor on it recently, so that's probably had a fault rectified. In the boot, we've got a set of mats there which we might be able to reuse. We've got even in the footwell. Let's see if we've got any goldfish in the footwell. No. It's quite smart in the boot actually. Spares there. What's left of the jack and stuff and the wheel braces. It's alright. Not a bad little thing. Right, so let's get it loaded up and we'll talk about the numbers. Right, we'll load it up. So a quick chat about this Dacia. What else goes wrong with Dacia Sanderos? Well, I've not had too many issues really other than what's mentioned. Saying that, no, actually power steering. I've seen a few with power steering leaks. They're pipe work to them, which can be quite expensive. So always make sure you pop bonnet as well. I'll put this on the ramp now, I was going to check it, but I'll put you a picture of one here. Check the power steering pipes. Very simplistic system, really. It's just a really conventional pump with just pipe work. It's really simple, but they do have a habit of leaking on certain joins as well. And some of them are easy fixes, and other times you have to buy the complete pipe work, and it can be really expensive. Have to get them. Or the last lot I had to get was from Dacia, which were a fair few £100. So make sure you check that out. You'll see it becomes obvious. You'll see loads of fluid leaks along the pump lines themselves, the actual pipe work, or obviously check the level as well, make sure we're level. Other issues I've seen on Dacia Sanderos as well, this sort of era, ECU issues. I've never come across it, but I have heard of it, so it can't really be that common, and I'll stand corrected if anyone's in the comments has come across this, but it's not something I've seen. And ECU faults would cause sort of issues with lights not working, telltale signs not working on the dashboard, or flickering on the dashes, or not starting, and sort of dash faults. Anything like that, I'll be running a mile. I won't be getting involved in one of those. Now, it's not the end of the world if it needed an ECU. It can be rectified, but will cost you a fair bit of money. You know, you expect to be spending sort of £500 to £700 having an ECU redone and programmed on a car if you're having to take it to a garage to do that. So make sure if you see anything electrical issues at all, in regards to starting and dash faults or anything like that, or lights, I'll be very wary of. Don't be worried about doors, windows not working and stuff like that. They're really conventional. We're talking about real sort of obvious faults with dashes and stuff if there's going to be an ECU issue. Like I said, the engines, the 1.2s, the petrols are quite good. They said they're a Clio-based engine. They're quite reliable. The engines have been used for about the last 20 odd years. They've been using the Clios and stuff like that. They are pretty decent. Anyhow, enough about the faults. What about this one? Well, it doesn't seem too bad so far. We've only driven it sort of up the road and back and going to load it up now. But so far, I'm pretty happy with it. We'll get it back in the workshop. We'll check it out, obviously. Numbers-wise, and this is sort of finger in the air type fag packet sort of calculations. It's standing us at about 1,230 quid or something like that, I just mentioned before. We're definitely going to spend a few £100s on paint. While the paint man's there, I'll get him to sort the top out under the bonnet, smart on the bonnet underneath there up as well, get the sill repainted properly, have it all sort of cleaned up and done properly, and all flashed in. Bit around the arch as well, I've just noticed on the inner edge, probably get that done as well. Just get it all smartened up, have the entire car mopped up, it will look really, really well. It'll stand it, no issue at all. Don't mind spending a few £100 on the paint side to get it looking well. Further to that, underneath, bit of general prep. I don't think we're going to spend really more than sort of 500 quid, provided we don't have any major issues. I think that's realistic. And at those sort of numbers, we could be on for a nice little profit there of around £1,000 to 1,200 quid. So that'll be a nice little turnaround on that one. And they are good sellers as well. They look really good value. People like them. They're not really sort of specific to any age group. I've sold Dacia Sanderos to maybe not the youngest of drivers, but in the 20s. I've sold Dacias to lads in the 20s and girls in the 20s. I've sold to people in their 40s, 50s, 70s. Quite a universal car for all. It's just very cheap, practical motoring that offers a decent space. And it's just cheap to run, cheap to insure, all round really. They're not a bad little car, and they're pretty decent things to sell and make money out of. Anyway, we'll see how we get on with this Dacia. You can keep up to date with this Dacia, going through the workshop, going in through prep, and I will talk more about it in one of my update videos at the Car Pitch. So make sure you check them out by liking and subscribing to the channel, and by doing that you'll get all my latest content as it lands. So thank you for watching this small video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.